Welcome to Life and Liberty. I'm Peter Shinn with Pro-Life Unity and Cherish Life Ministries.
And I'm Gardner with National Black Pro-Life Union at nationalblackprolifeunion.com.
And we're here today to talk about life and liberty, all the issues that affect us, because there's so many important things in life that we need to talk about. And you and I, we've been in the pro-life movement for a number of years.
Too long.
Too long. We'd like to end this sooner.
Yeah.
But we know that there's more to the story than just the life issues. And some people might say, well, it's the most important issue. Okay, I get that. I agree.
Yeah,
but these things are connected. Liberty is just as connected to life. And if we don't talk about the things that are important on the liberty side, we don't connect the dots. And if we don't connect those dots, I think that we've been talking about this, and we believe that this is something that can really help people understand that there's more, and let's connect all of these dots. Let's make things understandable to the average person, so that they don't just look at us and say, oh, there's that pro-life person coming again, right?
Well, there's so much going on, and of course, while the life issues are the main thing for both of us, there's so much other stuff going on, as Peter just mentioned, and I think that we can just start right now. This is like we're getting ready for this, probably the most important election in many, many, many years. And of course, this is the election, Hillary Clinton versus Donald J. Trump. And we're hoping everybody will get out and vote November 8th. But let's talk about why it's really important. It's a lot bigger than I think most people think. I know that I personally have been supporting Donald Trump since the beginning, since he announced and he came down that escalator, he and his wife at Trump Tower. And after listening to his speech, I decided to get on the Trump train right away. And here's the thing that really put me over the edge. First of all, I heard him talking about how much money he has and all the things he owns and how wealthy he was. And I tell you, inside I was thinking, okay, what's this guy all about? We already know so you're rich and we're not. Okay, we get it. And he's going on. And tell the truth, it was really bothering me a bit. But when it was all over at the end, he said, so therefore, because of this, I'm not going to be owned by anyone. No one will own me. And all of a sudden, it was like a light went off, and I got it. I thought, it has never, ever happened. There has never been a candidate that said, I'll put my own money up. No one owns me. Yes, I'm wealthy. I can afford it. I'm going to do it myself. And I don't owe anyone favors. And with him saying that right away, I thought, okay, this is the guy. I'm interested in this guy right here. And I started following his campaign. I was at every single, not at every debate, but I watched every single debate. I made sure that I wanted to see what he had to say and how he was going to carry this out. And things got really tricky. Everyone knows it was really crazy because there were so many other wonderful candidates. Of course, Dr. Ben Carson, who I also supported, did some supporting financially of him. Not much, folks, because everyone knows there's a pro-life movement. You really don't have a lot of money. Yeah. So that, and also Cruz, who was Ted Cruz, who is pro-life, Marco Rubio, so many wonderful people, Rick Perry, that I thought, well, any one of these guys, if they got in there, if they were our nominee, I'd be very happy with any one of the guys I just mentioned. But, as things started to whittle down a little bit, Trump was just there for me. Always,
he stuck out, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. He just did. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on it, Peter, from the very beginning?
It's crazy. Being a pro-life guy, of course, we look for who are the candidates that we think are the most pro-life, and I kind of first started supporting Trump from the beginning, and people would say to me, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I mean, the guy's, he flip-flops. He's going to say one thing one day, and he's going to say another thing the next day. And I said, well, welcome to politics. Yeah. So, I mean, if that's the worst that we've got against them, then I'd say, well, everybody else is saying that too. I really did like Ted Cruz. I thought that he was, I've met him, talked to him. I think he's an outstanding person. I think he would have been an outstanding candidate. I really felt from the beginning, from right when it was 16 people, I knew he was coming to the other end. I told my wife, I said, He's going to be the one. And actually, I said he's going to be the president.
Yeah.
I just felt that confident because he was something different. He was something that stood out in a way that, and not just, people. I know some of you some of you hate him. You're saying, yeah, he stood out. He stood out for things he said, and his comments about women and all that kind of stuff. But it was more than that. I think that he resonated with people in a way that was the independence, the average person. And I think that's important. And I would have been fine with Ted. If it would have been Ted Cruz, I would have been fine
Ted,
with that.
Marco, and Rick Perry, all of them. And
no matter what, I would have supported any candidate, any Republican, because we know what comes out the other side.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that we were all probably in that, but at the same time, I thought, there was something else. Okay, I mentioned the fact that he could not be bought. There was another thing. In growing up, I remember, first of all, I loved my grandmom, who passed away in 2000. She was a phenomenal lady, and I remember my aunt saying to me, my grandmother had this, she was just very outspoken. And if you came out in something, a dress or something, and say, "Grandma, how does this look?" She would say, "Well, it's a nice dress, but you look a little fat." Or she'd say,
she was very honest.
"I really like that, but that's really not your color." And she would come out and say, if you did not want to know the truth, you do not ask Grandma, because she was honest. But you know what that taught me is the fact that, first of all, I could trust her. Her opinion was honest, even though it may hurt my feelings a little bit, or it may make me feel uncomfortable, or maybe she didn't say it the way she should have said it. It wasn't said as... My grandmother was not politically correct. And the really crazy thing is that I've been told many times, well, Dave, maybe you should find a way to say things a little bit softer. Maybe you should, and so many times I thought, and I'd come out jokingly and I'd say, well, I'm like my grandmom in that way, I just, if you ask me something, I'm going to tell you something honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I don't know any other way to say it. And I have tried to beat around the bush a little bit and tried to soften the things I say, but it's very hard sometimes, because in softening, sometimes you soften it so much that it becomes a lie. It becomes an untruth. So that's the other thing with Trump. He's not politically correct. He just came out and said, I'm just going to say it, and I'm putting it out there, and it's going to offend some people. Sorry, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I thought, this is another reason why I like this man. So it was like a lot of things that just kind of fell in place for me. Like I said, I supported him and not financially at first. I do now, but not financially support. But at the same time, I just supported him in, I guess, in theory, and with other pro-lifers. And Peter, it was really kind of funny, because you and I know, Peter and I, like you said, we've been doing this forever, and we were hoping that we would not be, because we hoped that the world would recognize how horrible abortion is from the very moment of conception up through 9 months. It's a horrible, horrible thing. But at the same time, I really thought, we both thought that this would be over, we wouldn't be doing this. And what I loved and still love about Trump is the fact that he also is pro-life. Now, a lot of pro-life people were hammering me at first, saying he's not pro-life enough. He's not, he has exceptions. I mean, they gave me all this list, and I thought, well, here's what I don't get. Pro-lifers who I love with all my heart, because these people I love, and they love me. They just didn't like me so much at the time, but they love me. I know they do, and I love them. But here's what they weren't getting. The thing is, I said, he's every bit as pro-life as McCain. He's every bit as pro-life as George W. Bush. He's every bit pro-life as Romney. Here's what I don't understand. So why is it that you're giving me such a hard time when he's the same as they were, and you didn't have any problem with any of those? So that was always the thing I couldn't understand. And they would come back to me and say, well, he's so brash, and he's bombastic, and he's rude, and I said, and he's honest. And so anyway, there was a bit of a difficult time for me and for my other pro-life brothers and sisters, evangelicals, people who I love, and who, like I said, they love me, and we're all okay now. We worked through it.
We iron things out.
As Christians, we love each other, and it works out. So I know you said that they weren't real pleased with you either.
I definitely had the same problem, and I still have people that say that he's not the pro-life guy. And I've talked about the fact that he selected Marjorie Dannenfelser as to head up his pro-life initiatives, and he really, to me, it seems like he's open to learn, not just uninformed and trying to say, well, I'll get people around me who will, whatever. I mean, he seems like the kind of person who wants to learn and he wants to understand, because I think that he has so much experience in leadership.
Exactly.
People don't recognize that. They say, well, he doesn't have any experience in politics. Well, that's fine with me, but he has experience in leadership.
Yeah, and
he's
then
been running his companies.
Because he doesn't have any experience in politics, that's a plus for a lot of people.
No
so
kidding.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
but as you said, he's running companies. Go on.
He's running companies, and like I say, he's working on the pro-life issues. He's working on other issues, understanding other issues. And when they say, well, he flip-flopped, it's like, no, he's learning.
He's learning.
And
yeah.
I look at myself. I've been pro-life since 1978, I would say, and I'll explain the whole thing another day. But throughout all these years, all the way up until probably 1999 or so, well, no, maybe it was even up to 2003 or so, I wasn't 100%. I was not 100% pro-life, no exceptions, no compromise.
Wow.
And I met Nellie Gray and Joe Scheidler, the grandmother and the grandfather of the pro-life movement. And I didn't just meet them, I worked with them. We worked together. I helped Nellie as much as I could with the March for Life, and Joe and I worked on different projects, and we supported each other throughout the years. And the one thing that I was doing this entire time, though, is I was listening, because I felt like there were so many things I didn't understand, and I needed people with experience to help me understand. So in the beginning, I didn't have that understanding of how rape, incest, health of the mother, life of the mother. I didn't understand that stuff. So when people slam Trump or anyone else and they say, well, what about this and this and this, I was like, I was there too. You're talking, you're talking to somebody who's been there. I went through the process. Nellie Gray and Joe Scheidler, over time, they explained things to me, and it was like, wow, I understand now, and I feel like Trump's going through that also.
Well, they put a lot of strange stipulations on him. Then I had people come up, like I said, I'm a born again Christian, and said, well, he's not a Christian. And I thought, you never asked that of McCain, Romney, or Bush. You never asked of any of those people. That was never part of your criteria. And the thing is that I don't know what his walk is with Christ. I know that there have been a lot of Christian leaders, a lot of people reaching out to him and who have been supporting him and who are counseling him. I don't know what it is. I mean, all of us, we have our walks a different way. We have a personal relationship with God, and I think that's why it's called personal. It's between you and God.
Right.
So I don't even go there at all. I just say, well, I'm praying for him, and I'm hoping that he accepts salvation and he does come to know Christ as his personal Savior. But I don't think that was criteria for anyone else that any other pro-lifer or any other evangelical voted for before going into office. And if so, that's a very small minority of people. So that's where I stand with regard to that. So it's really interesting. I mean, as you said, Trump is learning. What I love about him also is that with his business, he is so successful that he makes sure that he puts people in the places that where they need to be. He finds the best people for the positions in order to, and it's about delegating authority and putting the best people you can find into a position to make you look good. And that's what it's all about. I mean, evidently the Trump brand is doing very well. Then you have, I'm talking about all the things, all the other side that we hear from people. They say, well, he had a few failed businesses. Well, you know what? We learn from failure. I've learned from my failures. We don't go around every day successful in everything we do. We're pro-lifers. We're not successful. If we were successful, there'd be no such thing as abortion at all. We'd wipe it all out. But you know what? We keep trying, and we try to get better and better at it and try to bring our message of life to people in a better way so that they understand, and so that we're saving more and more lives every day. We're learning every day. We get better every day. We find a better way to reach out. And I think that that's what it's all about. No, he's not, has he had some failures? Yes, he has. But that's all a part of learning, and it's a part of getting better, because with each failure you learn, hey, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to do things a little bit different the next time around. So,
I've been reading a lot of leadership books. I listen to leadership on tape from different people, and what's amazing is that these people, whether it's Anthony Robbins or Stephen Covey or any of these people who do these lectures on how to improve your life and so on, they talk about the fact that we are supposed to fail because it helps us grow. Exactly. If we don't risk failing, then we can't grow at the level that we need to grow.
Yeah.
And how many people have companies that they failed at previous companies and then tried again, and then eventually they succeeded. And Edison, he was the one who said that someone asked him, didn't all those failures discourage you? And he said, no, it was another thing that I knew that didn't work. And exactly. So you keep going until you find something that did work, because it took, I can't remember the number, but it was like over 1,000 tries for to get the light bulb.
Yeah.
And it's so important for us to keep trying. And that's something that we obviously see with Trump, is that he doesn't just whimper and cower at the first attack. As a matter of fact, he steps forward, and that's what I like to see, because that's what we need. And Day, I think God picked us for a reason, because we're outspoken. We don't give up. We say what we believe. We don't hide behind thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't say this because maybe I'll offend somebody. That's not going to help us at all, and it's not going to help God, because think about this, folks. We represent God, and what we say and what we do, people look at us, we represent God. So it's an important thing that we do that in a bold way, because I believe God is bold. He doesn't hide behind the bushes, and I mean, it's such a different experience, I think, when you look at things as a Christian. If we look at things as a Christian as, let's be bold, let's go out, let's be assertive, let's accomplish things, or let's have a meeting, let's talk, I don't know about this, and Trump is definitely a let's step forward guy. And so that's what we've got. And I was going to say, back in 2008, I remember when Obama was running for office, and the craziest thing was that I had people, pro-life people, saying, I'm not going to vote for McCain because it was McCain and no, wait a minute, I can't remember who was in 2008 now.
8 was McCain.
8 was McCain, and 12 was Romney.
Yeah.
And so in 2008, when McCain was running, pro-life people were telling me, he's not really, that pro-life. I'm going to let Obama win because I want people to see how horrible this country can be under because we all knew how he was going to pull us toward this socialism, and he did. He pulled us hardcore in that direction. And then in 2012, it happened again, and people were saying again, well, let's let it go, because you know what? People haven't suffered enough. Let's let it go again. Let's let one more round. I'm thinking, no. I'm done with this, and that's what we need to get through.
Exactly.
Those of us who know we've got to stand up. We've got to make a change. We've got to make a difference. Trump is our guy.
Yeah.
You may not like him, but he's our guy, and we need to back him. He's going to pick Supreme Court justices that believe more what we believe.
Exactly, and he said he will pick from the list that he put out there. So, and that means an awful lot, because the people who he put out were approved by the Heritage Foundation and several other groups.
That was great.
Yeah.
See, and that's another example of how he looks to authority in certain areas of maybe something he doesn't have a good enough understanding of what it is that people in the conservative community might want to know.
So we talk about all the things that why we feel Trump is good, but I think we should also mention some of the things that why we feel that Hillary is bad. And
There
I have
we
to
go.
right away, I have to go to...
Just as important, why Hillary is bad.
Well, of course, there's the WikiLeaks thing and everything, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the most important thing that really stood out, and this is another, which is a plus for Trump also, in the last debate, when the question came out about abortion, and Trump, more than any other candidate ever, was very adamant about the importance of life, especially with regard to late-term abortion. Now, there are people out there who, you hear the term abortion, and a lot of people have no idea really what it is. They say abortion, okay, that means it's ending a pregnancy, and sometimes they don't understand exactly what happens to that child exactly. Some people act like they don't care what happens to that baby, but abortion is atrocious. It's horrible. Kills a baby in the most horrific, inhumane, brutal ways. But when you think about late-term abortion, we're talking about babies that are, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, 9 months, right up until birth. These babies can be killed legally in the United States. Now, I talk around the country. I know that Peter does also. And when people come up to you and they say, you tell them that, no, we're talking up to 9 months. I mean, a baby can be due the next
1 minute later.
They could kill the baby just before birth. And they say, that doesn't happen in this country. I don't believe it. Well, you know what? Believe it. That's exactly what's happening. That is exactly what Trump was talking about in that debate. And that's exactly what Hillary was supporting. She's in support of all abortion, including the most gruesome, late-term abortion, which means killing that baby just prior to being born. That's horrific. Basically, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost infanticide. It's killing a human being, a baby, when the baby is viable without the mother. Can you believe that?
It shocked me that she was actually in front of the world.
Yes.
Millions of people watching.
And then there are people saying, yeah, we're still going to vote for Hillary. I'm saying, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Do you understand what she just said? Up until 9 months, through 9 months, she supports killing that child. And if we tell you, and I think I will just briefly, because I don't want to get into, I don't want this to be an abortion thing, but just the 9 months, think in terms of this. An abortionist will give a woman or young girl a medication that will open her womb a little bit, will start her dilating. Then a doctor will then take a needle, once that she's dilated, will take a needle full of digoxin, which is a horrible medication, and it has to be inserted into the heart of the child. This is a child that is a viable child. Into
9
the heart
months
of the
old.
child, killing this baby. Now, it takes the baby like a day or two to die. So they're going to they're stabbing this baby in the heart with this horrible chemical. It kills the child within the mother, and then they deliver a dead baby a few days later. I mean, just the thought of it. Here's this baby that's moving around that's saying, I'm about here I am, I'm ready to be born. And to have a doctor kill a baby in such a horrific and gruesome way, and then take the baby out once it's dead. So this mother has to have this dead baby within her until the doctor takes it out. How horrific is that? I mean, that is late-term abortion, and that's what Hillary Clinton supports.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
And one of the problems that we have, language, we're talking about how people don't understand things and they don't believe it. I mean, how many times have I been out on the road and I've traveled the world and talked about this issue, and how many times am I out there and people say, oh, that's not allowed, that's not legal, and they don't know. They think we're telling lies, and especially I remember when they passed the partial birth abortion ban, and everybody thought that this was going to be the answer to those late-term abortions, and I explained to people, it's not a ban on late-term abortions. All it said was that they weren't allowed to deliver the baby past the navel, so they had to stop at the navel.
But we should explain a little bit what a late-term abortion is. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Partial birth abortion.
Partial birth.
Now we're talking about late-term abortion with the digoxin and the needle. Okay, let's go to another one. This is partial birth abortion. Now this is where the baby is put into a breech position so that the feet would be coming out first. They actually deliver the baby totally outside of the mother. Now this is before it was banned, totally outside of the mother up until the neck. And they have the baby hanging out, arms, legs, hanging freely outside of the mother,
alive
almost born.
and flailing.
Almost born, just about. before the delivery of the head. Now, before they deliver the head, the entire baby out, they take a pair of scissors, jam it into the back of the baby's skull, insert a tube, and then they actually sucked out the brain of this child. Now, this is a baby that's alive, flailing, ready to be born, already out of the mother. And then before they suck out the brain of the child from the base of the neck. And of course, in doing so, the baby's head collapses. And then they pull out the dead baby.
Isn't that horrible?
What a horrific thing. But you know what? Then enter partial birth abortion ban with George W. Bush. And that's where Peter just picked up. So go ahead, Peter.
Yeah.
Now, I've said what I had to say.
Yeah, and so then what they said was, and what was happening was, babies were accidentally dropping out of the mother's womb, because when you deliver a baby up to the neck, sometimes the mother would have a contraction,
and
she would push it right, and the baby would just drop out onto the floor. And no kidding, the doctor would grab the baby and shove the head back into the womb, because they weren't allowed to
They're not allowed to kill the baby outside of the womb. So when the baby was delivered, rather than say, wow, the baby's delivered, we have a child, it's like theirs was like, oops, what do we do now? And then they would try to
fix that
find
mistake.
a way to fix their mistake to kill the child.
Yeah, so that's what was being examined, was the oops factor. So they were saying, well, let's eliminate the oops factor, and if we make the law so that they can only deliver the baby up to the navel, up to the belly button, then it's less likely the baby is going to accidentally be dropped onto the floor, and we won't have that problem. And really, when you read the paperwork on this, the Supreme Court justices, what they read, they even said this is one of the most horrific things they've read in their entire lives. And you read what they discussed and everything, you would think that they would have said, this is insane. Let's ban abortion right here and now. I mean, what are we talking about? This is ridiculous. Done. We're going to ban it right now, you would think. But no, all they were deliberating was how to stop this oops factor, and that's what happened. And not one life, as far as I know, not one life has been saved, and people cheer it and they say that it has saved lives, but I don't know how, because it didn't stop the process of abortion.
And all they did really is just, the abortionists just came back and said, okay, we'll just find a new way to do it. Let's just jab the baby in the heart with a needle and kill the baby and let it die in the mother for a couple of days, and then we'll take the baby out.
So in front of the world, here was Hillary Clinton talking about this. Now, if of course, if you and I were there, and if we were able to get into it and elaborate the step further on, hey, do you know what we're talking about here? I think people might have been like, no, really? And maybe that would have changed people's perception of her a little bit.
And you really don't know. The thing is, some people, you hear all the time biblically about people having scales on their eyes, and there are people who really do, and some people just don't want to know the truth. I think that we're living in an age where there's so much brutality, so much violence, that killing children. It's been desensitized a little bit about people have become numb to a lot of horrible, gruesome things, and unfortunately, a lot of those horrible, gruesome things occur to people who cannot fight back, whether they're too small or they're elderly. They cannot fight back, and so they become victimized in the most horrific ways, and I think that's really what we're talking about here. And I think Peter thought too, is that once, especially, now everything we're talking about, especially with regard to abortion, the types of abortion we're talking about, please take it upon yourself, don't believe us. Don't buy what we're saying, but take it upon yourself to go online and Google what we're talking about. Google late-term abortion. Google partial birth abortion. Google abortion to see what an abortion is. There are videos out there where you can see exactly what an abortion is and what it does. You can hear the stories from women, what it has done to their bodies and what it has done to their lives and their families. So many broken people. So we encourage you to please Google it for yourself. You don't have to take our word for it. But it's just so hard to believe that this practice still takes place. Trump was very adamant that, he was against, especially the late-term abortion is what they were talking about in the debate. Watch the debate again if you missed it, so you can go back and listen and see what it was really all about and hear that exchange between Hillary and Trump. And the other thing is that to see how people basically, know where she stands on it. It's out there. They know where she stands. And in spite of it, they are still in her camp and still intending to vote for her.
Yeah. And there's more to this, though. And that's why we have life and liberty, because there's more to Hillary than just her stance on abortion. I mean, you look at the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. Freedom of speech is being jeopardized. The right to bear arms. I mean, people think, oh, we'll just go and we'll buy guns. Oh, we'll just go and we'll buy ammo. Well, the Democrats are talking about confiscation.
Yeah.
They're not just talking about, and this is what Germany did, and I'm sorry to say, this is what Hitler did, okay? I mean, people say, oh, you can't bring that up. It's like, okay, if it's a direct correlation, if there's a direct comparison,
then you can bring it
we can bring it up. And that is what he did. And why did he do it? Because he didn't want the people to have this ability to stage an uprising and stop him from doing what he wanted to do. And think about it, so often people, and I'm going to drift into this, Second Amendment here for a second. Why do we have the right to bear arms? People say, oh, you don't need that gun to defend yourself. It's like, that's not the Second Amendment. The whole purpose of the Second Amendment is that we have the ability to defend ourselves from the government.
Exactly.
Not from the burglar that's breaking in. As a matter of fact, they actually wanted us to have weapons that would be comparable and that would be able to challenge the government.
Right.
And that was, I believe, supposed to be our National Guard. But the National Guard has become part of the federal government.
Exactly.
And so now we don't even have the National Guard anymore. So all we have are our rifles, which I say basically we've got pop guns, compared to what the government has.
Well, that becomes just like all those other countries where you see governments who are basically dictatorships, where they have all the guns and the power, and the people have nothing. You know. And we can sit back and talk about how horrible it is, the different devastations and the things that are going on in some of these countries. So horrible, how governments can treat their people. But you know what? That's what our Second Amendment protects us from becoming one of those governments.
Yeah. And as Trump has been saying frequently, he says, if you are so anti-gun, then give up your bodyguards. Give up their guns.
They're thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, right. They don't want to do that because come on, we know what could happen. We know there are people out there with weapons. And just because they can confiscate guns from good people, let's look at Hurricane Katrina as an example. There were incidents that people that were shooting the helicopters because they didn't want the police coming around. They were happy robbing people's homes and businesses, and they were shooting at the helicopters and at cops. And so what did the cops do? They went around through the neighborhoods and they forced residents to give up their guns. They forced people who were protecting themselves, who were stranded. They didn't have a security detail. They're stranded in the flood. They wanted to defend their homes, and they were taking away their guns. There's a video of a woman, grandmother, and the officer asked her if she had a gun, and she said, yeah, I've got my pistol here to protect myself. And then, like a SWAT team, they tackled this grandmother to the ground, handcuffed her, took away her weapon, as if she was the criminal.
Okay, I'm going to be looking for that one online.
It'll blow your mind when you see it. I mean, Hurricane Katrina, if you want to know what happens, and a lot of people are talking about martial law, what happens in martial law. And that's one of the issues here is that I believe that the Democrats will create these types of environments where they will institute martial law, and then what's one of the first things that they're going to want to do under that? The same thing that they did under Katrina. They're going to want to take away our weapons.
Away your weapons.
In the beginning, they'll make it. Now they're just talking about, well, let's just ban certain magazines. Let's just ban certain bullets. Let's just ban certain styles of weapons. Let's ban assault weapons. Because they say that assault weapons, well, those aren't. You don't need those to hunt. It's like, well, they're not meant for hunting in the first place. But in the second place, the idea that they have and what they're trying to do with all of this is you take away the magazine, a 30-round magazine, you drop it down to a 10, drop it down to 5, make it so you can only have, let's say 5 bullets available. You're less and less able to defend yourself. But ultimately, the idea is make it so that you can't even own a weapon because you can't. There's nothing there that lets you do that.
If there were anything, if there any part of it that I could actually side with, and the one thing I do believe in background checks for people who own guns. I believe that we should find out if they are criminals. To be honest.
Well, that seems. And the thing is that seems perfectly logical.
Yeah.
The problem is, it puts us on a database, and it puts us on a Democrat database. And excuse me for being Republican Democrat, and I'm an independent, and I vote Republican typically because Republicans believe what I believe. I registered independent because I wanted to be, I wanted to be able to speak about things from all the different angles, and for people to not say, well, you're just a Republican.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when I came from Germany, I registered as an independent because I always believed in being an independent person. I didn't know independent was a party. I thought it was just, you're registering as an independent person, not in the independent party.
Okay.
and I didn't find out about that until years later. So, it's important for us to understand we have to defend, if we believe in certain things, we have to defend those certain things all the way. And we, again, if you create a database that, let's the terrorist watch list as an example, people who've committed crimes, all of these things, they seem perfectly logical. But what's happening is they're going into a database that is being controlled by Democrats, and then they're going to be looking over us. And not only that, whenever they get around to this idea of confiscating guns, they'll have us on a list that they can then just go out and round us up. And
I do understand that, but I have to.
But I understand where you're coming from.
I'm one of those people. I feel like if everyone is on a database, I'm fine. Put cameras everywhere. I hear people say all the time, "Do you really want cameras in your home? Do you want cameras?" I'm thinking, if you really want to see, there's something you may not want to see, folks. But the bottom line is it's about safety these days, and we know that. I mean, you think of places like England, which has cameras just about everywhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and they have to, because they're right there in the middle of a whole bunch of other stuff. They have to. But I honestly believe, and we see that having more and more cameras and video, it does save lives. It does stop crime. It does help us find out who are committing these crimes. So I'm kind of torn between that one. There's part of me that says, you know what, if they're doing it to everybody, who cares? The bottom line is that I want to be safe. I want my family to be safe. So I do understand some people who are taking that. But we have to watch our time. So let's move on. What is you wanted to touch on WikiLeaks before we head off?
Yeah, Julian Assange. I'll tell you what, last year, I didn't really know much about the guy. I mean, I didn't really care. As a matter of fact, I thought he was a pinko left-wing nut job in the beginning, and I thought all he was going to do is he was going to go after the Republicans. I really, like I say, didn't know. And then he started doing these leaks on Hillary Clinton, and I sat up. It's like, oh, he's not just one party. He's kind of like life and liberty in the sense of, well, let's go after what he needs to go after. If it's a Republican, let's go after a Republican. Let's go after the truth. Yeah. And now all of a sudden that
the level
attracted me.
The level of corruption, I have to, and I'm sure a lot of people out there agree with us, Peter. The level of corruption that we're seeing with this whole WikiLeaks thing, I just can't believe that our country is put in a situation where we are not secure. We have no idea who is seeing what with regard to Hillary's email, and it's really funny to see the mainstream media a lot of them kind of skim over this like it's really not too much, not a big deal, but it really is, folks. I mean, we have no idea at all what the damage has been done. We have no idea at all. And they're mentioning this Huma Abedin. Now, I know that she has some connection to, from what I understand, the Muslim Brotherhood. I have no idea, and I don't want to say anything that's not true.
Well, her mother is
Google it
radical, and she's tied to terrorists. And
that's what I've heard.
As they say, the nut doesn't fall far from the tree.
But you wonder, and now you're seeing that a lot of Hillary's emails were found on the laptop of Uma's husband, who is what's his name? Weiner. Yeah, everybody's familiar with that guy. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that, so we have no idea really who has seen this top secret stuff. I mean, that's what's really scary. We have no idea. We just have
thousands of messages, not just a few.
Yeah.
And and some people.
No wonder she didn't want to let anyone know. She was thinking, let's just make this go away, because I don't want to tell you what really happened. But this is really a big deal. And someone said, I saw on Twitter where someone had mentioned that this is bigger than Watergate. And then, immediately someone else came back and said, oh no, why would you say that? It's not as big as Watergate. But it really is. This is a real big deal. Yeah. And to be honest, when I think about General Cartwright, he's the general about 2 weeks ago, who we found out he's going to be, he has, I think it was like one leak or something like that, something very small, that, and he is standing up and saying, I did it, I'm taking, I did this and it was wrong, and I'm going to take, I'm going to stand up to the muster, whatever has to be done, I'm ready to stand and be responsible, take responsibility for what I did. And I think about that, and then I think about Hillary. I'm thinking they're talking about putting this guy in jail, this general, a 4-star general from what I understand, in jail. And he's going to go through,
and he's not the first one.
No.
This has happened.
Oh my goodness, look at Petraeus.
Yeah.
Petraeus.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, and yet Hillary at this time is still running for president. How is she allowed to be still running for president?
Yeah.
And what's worse is who is voting for her? Can you believe that there are people who are still voting for this woman with all this stuff out there, who would trust her at all? Yeah. So it's really crazy, And the things that Peter and I, of course, we've been we're going to try to come to you at least once a week with all this stuff, with our opinions.
There's a lot to talk about.
With all of our
here.
opinions, as you can see, we could talk a lot. We're talkers with our opinions. But I think that this was a very good maiden voyage for us.
Yeah. And the WikiLeaks thing, when you look at what was open on that, the things that were exposed, there's no doubt that from the beginning, when we saw the things that were going on, we knew, well, these are federal offenses. Why wasn't she arrested? And so often I'm thinking, what's going on? I mean, and especially every week, I think they're on number 21 right now, coming on 22 of the releases of all of these things, Podesta and all the other people that have been communicating. And you think, these are all federal offenses. And there was one person during the last debate. After the debate, the person said, why wasn't anybody paying attention to the fact that she gave away our state secrets when she said, when something happens and the president has to make a decision within 4 minutes, within 4 minutes, that was a state secret. And people say, oh, well, people kind of know about that already. No, it was never given away by a representative, a secretary of state, in front of millions of people. She gave away a state secret. So she obviously was...
She's not thinking. She can't keep her mouth shut.
She wasn't thinking.
She just isn't. And that's exactly why we have to make sure that she does not get into the White House. So we're asking all of you, anyone who's listening today, to please get out and vote. If your state is voting already, then get out there and vote. And please vote Trump, even if you can't stand it. If we heard Nikki Haley, governor of North Carolina, came out. And is it North Carolina or South Carolina?
I think it's
one of those.
North.
South or North? But anyway, Nikki Haley.
No, it's South.
Yeah, okay. Nikki Haley came out and she said, she was not happy about doing it, but she's definitely going to vote for Trump. We know that Ted Cruz came out and endorsed him. We know that Marco Rubio. These are people who really have a real big problem with Trump. They have a reason to. I understand they didn't get along during the primaries or any of those things. Trump said a lot of things to anger them, but you know what? They're smart enough to realize what we're up against and what the bottom line is, folks. The bottom line is we get Hillary Clinton, who truly is as crooked as they say she is, as Trump says she is, who is just is horrible. She cannot be trusted to even with the most minute secret, as we just talked about. So it's important to get out there. If your state's already voting, please vote. And if not, please be out there on Election Day, November 8th. I'm going to be out November 8th, wearing red, by the way, Peter. I'm going to wear something red to let everyone know, hey, I'm a Trumpster.
We're not supposed to wear electioneering outfits to the poll stations, but they can't tell us what color we can wear. So that's right. So wear red. That's
we'd like to thank you for joining us. Hope you'll tune in next week when we try to do this again. And until next week, I'm Gardner with National Black Pro-Life Union.
Peter Shinn, Pro-Life Unity, Cherish Life Ministries. You can go to the website at prolifeunity.com or cherishlifeministries.com. And of course...
catch us both on Twitter.
Catch us on Twitter.
_Gardner, Day_Gardner, Twitter. And also...
mine is Peter Shinn, S-H-I-N-N. Simple as that.
Easy enough. Okay.
Yep.
And you've been tuned into Life in Liberty. We'll see you next time.
See ya.